Okay, guys. Am I back on YouTube? I thought I was streaming. I guess I was not, though. Okay. It looks like I'm back on now. Okay. Yes, I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was gone for a couple of minutes. I said I was going to be gone for a couple of seconds. But, you know, this is the way it goes with basically a test stream. I almost thought about putting test stream in the title just so people wouldn't get their hopes up that this was going to be audio on one ear again. Well, you know what? The audio, I think, was pretty good the last time before I changed it. But you guys told me to change it. I'm pretty sure that it needed to be the setting I had it on last time. Okay, guys. We're not changing the audio. Is this the good audio? I know this isn't left ear only, this audio. You should have in both ears with this. Okay, that's what I thought. So when you guys told me before that I needed to change it, and I went back and I changed it to the bad setting, now it's back to... It's not your guys' fault, though. I should be monitoring the audio myself. Or I should have just did some test recordings before doing this stream. Alright, guys. Well, I know, because I was gone for a few minutes, plus this was an impromptu stream, there may not be that many people joining the stream just yet. So I will wait a couple of minutes, and then we'll get into some of the computer specs, as well as my latest distro of choice. Yeah, audio is good. Thank you, Rocco. Rocco wouldn't lie to me. If the audio was bad, Rocco would say it was garbage. The stream is dead for me. Weird. The stream looks like it is live on YouTube. I see it on YouTube. Plus, I have a little green box in OBS, meaning we're streaming. If you don't see it on YouTube, we're streaming somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'm streaming on Twitch or somewhere. Yeah, DT switched to Windows. We're going to get into that, Tigwent, because I could have switched to Windows today. Matter of fact, I will go ahead and tell you. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the topic here, which is, of course, the computer. So give me just a second. All right, so I snapped some pictures when I unboxed it earlier today of the phone. So I ordered a computer from Ava Direct. You know, they custom build computers. Pretty popular site. There's a million of these sites out there that will, you know, build a PC to whatever specs you want them to build it to. And it's pretty cost effective for the most part. You could save $200-300 probably ordering the parts yourself for a build like this. But for a $2,500 computer, is it really worth it to save a couple of $100? Probably not, because you're going to have to order all the parts separately. It might take you a few weeks to acquire all the parts, put it together. You'll have to decide yourself whether it's worth it to you to actually build the machine yourself or pay some of these companies to build it for you. But that box that it was shipped in was gigantic. I was seriously concerned when the FedEx guy dropped off that box. That box was very large, and I swear, I thought there was a dead body in it. This thing was heavy. You know, the FedEx guy was struggling to carry this box. So they should tell you a little something about how big this thing was. And if cycle through some of the pictures. So I opened the box. The box comes with a couple of these Ava Direct accessory boxes. This basically has all the little extras that didn't make it into the PC. Some cables and, you know, some mounts and cages and various tools. I think there was a wrench in there for something. Matter of fact, I can show you one of the boxes if I go back to this scene here, this box here, basically. So I got two of these full of, you know, just some stuff. So extra parts probably for, you know, various fans and, you know, graphics card. There was a plate in there. There was some kind of cage probably for some drives. So I got some extra parts that I don't, I'll put them in a closet somewhere. They're not necessary. But other than that, cycling through some of the pictures here. So this was the side of the case when I took the glass off. So there's one side, of course, is glass. There is the Radeon 7. It is huge and it is heavy. This case is huge and heavy. The Radeon 7 is huge and heavy. This tower here, it's got some serious weight to it. I could use this desktop tower as a weapon if I wanted to. I could bludgeon somebody to death with that Radeon 7. It's got that kind of weight. So, and of course, you can see the motherboard, the X399 there. And of course, let's go ahead and... So here are some of the specs. I just typed them in VIM here. So the case, this gigantic case, is a Cooler Master MC500. Nice case. Why did I choose that case? Ava Direct has the option of choosing between, probably 50 cases. But they didn't have that many cases that had a optical drive bay. Most computers now don't come with optical drives, so most computer cases now don't even have like a front optical drive bay, and I wanted one. Even though I don't plan on using an optical drive, I do have an IC dock, a 6-bay IC dock I might put into this machine. So I ordered this particular case because it's a nice case and it had a drive bay. We talked about the motherboard. It's a ASRock X399 Phantom Gaming, pretty standard gaming motherboard, great motherboard. The Threadripper is the 12-core 1920X, best bang for your buck there. You can find these things pretty cheap now, cheapish. I think if you order one yourself, I want to say you're going to spend not even $400 anymore on that particular Threadripper. So it's 12-core, 24 threads, more than enough for what I need. Of course, the Gigabyte Radeon 7 is not what I ordered. I actually ordered an Asus Radeon 7 from Ava Direct, but they called me a week later and told me they couldn't find any more Radeon 7s. They were gone. I guess, everybody wanted one. Plus, you guys know the crypto miner craze, the high-end video cards, kind of in demand. It's hard to find NVIDIA 2080s. Apparently, it's really hard to find a Radeon 7. So they called me, said, man, they couldn't find one. They were trying to source one. They finally called me back, and the guy said he couldn't find any more Radeon 7, Asus Radeon 7s, but he found somebody with 1 gigabyte Radeon 7, and he was going to purchase it to put in my machine. So, thankfully, the people at Ava Direct are pretty good about finding what you ordered, even when they don't have it or it's out of stock. So they found me a Gigabyte Radeon 7. It's the same card, though. So all the Radeon 7s are basically the same thing. Same ports in the back. By the way, it's 4 ports on that Radeon 7. It is a 1 HDMI port, 3 display ports. 32 gigs of RAM, because why not? I do a lot of virtualization. I do a lot of VMs, so 32 gigs. The last machine I had was 16 gigs. It was more than enough. 32 gigs. Hell, why not? I'll never need to create another swap partition with 32 gigs. Power supply, 750 watt power supply. 280 millimeter radiator. Now let me see if I had a picture of that. So this gigantic radiator here in the front of that machine, that is the 280 millimeter radiator. Did I really need a water-cooled radiator that big? Probably not. A 120 probably would have been plenty. But you know what? When you're spending this kind of money anyway, there's not much difference between getting like a 240 or a 280 millimeter radiator and a 120. So I just went with the big one. If I cycle through the other pictures, here's a picture of the front. You can see this is my new case, and you see that's my old machine in the background. Do you see a size difference? Seriously, my old machine, that case was a Cougar, a Strike Cougar, I believe was the brand of case for that machine. I don't have it in the room right now, or I'd check it. 60% the size of this tower here. Of course, you can see at the front, I've got power buttons, and then I've got 2 USB 3, 2 USB 2, and then of course a headphone jack, mic jack in the front. In the back, I think I took a picture of the back. Let's see. Yeah, the back, yeah, you can see I've got plenty of USB ports, of course Ethernet, and then of course the graphics card here, again, 1 HDMI, 3 display ports. So that is my new computer. But total price for that thing, I spent a little over $2,400. So, yeah, thank you for the super chat there, Chris. Yeah, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Glad you could be here. Big Daddy shakes fist angrily. What are you angry about, Morocco? It's a nice machine. I still won't be able to beat you at ballistic overkill. I don't use aimbots like you do. Yeah, bird moth, because I'm mining. Yeah, but that's why I can't find any Radeon 7s, is because of all the miners. Yeah. Yeah, I have the 64 thread Threadripper. It's amazing. I bet it is. I wish I had the 64 thread Threadripper money. Paul, my wife would kill me. How well does Manjaro work with it out of the box? Well, it's a new computer, so I had the option to distro hop today. That is another thing we need to get into. So, let me... oh, by the way, other things you might want to know about storage. The Intel 1TB 660p. So, that is, of course, NVMe storage. Pretty reasonably priced NVMe, the Intel 660p. They're pretty cheap. You find them on sale everywhere. So, I thought, why not? I've never had an NVMe storage, so SSD. So 1 terabyte plus, I'm going to put my 6-bay IC dock in there with whatever drives I want to throw in it. So I'm going to have plenty of storage on this machine. Let me open up a terminal. And let me zoom in so you guys can see. This is Arco Linux. Arco Linux. This started life as Arco Linux B, their awesome window manager edition. Why did I install Arco Linux? Well, because I could. It's a new machine. I thought, do I want a distro hop? Originally, I thought, what do I want to install on this machine? And I love Arch. I love the Arch base. I love the AUR. I would find it very difficult to move off an Arch-based Linux distro. So I've been using Manjaro on and off on my main production machine for over a year now. And a few times when I hopped off of Manjaro, I hopped to other Arch-based distros. I ran mainline Arch for a couple of weeks. I've used Arco on my laptops a couple of different times. The Xmonad edition, I had their BSPWM edition on one of my laptops for a couple of months. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stay on the Arch base. I thought, to make this really quick, because it takes so long to transfer over all my data and, get everything set back up. You know what, for just saving time, I was going to reinstall Manjaro, because I could get the Manjaro i3 edition installed within 10 minutes. And then, I don't have to worry about anything else other than just moving all my data over. Because I had already been running Manjaro anyway. I could not get the Manjaro ISO on a USB stick. I could get it on a USB stick, but I could not get that live environment to come up on this new computer. It's going to be a graphics driver problem, and it did not matter in the live environment whether I was using the free driver, the non-free driver. I couldn't even get to the installer. It's a graphical installer on that particular version of Manjaro. Manjaro does have a architect installer, a command line installer. I could have tried. Well, I didn't have that ISO handy. But I did have the Arco Linux ISO handy. So when I realized my Manjaro ISO I had wasn't going to work out for me, I just installed Arco. Like I said, I've run 2 or 3 different versions of Arco on my laptops. Arco Linux, the Awesome Window Manager edition. Of course, this was not Awesome Window Manager. This is Qtile. Awesome Window Manager is on here, just as Eric Dubois and the Arco team configured it. I haven't done anything with it. I may eventually. Again, I need to take a look at Awesome on the channel at some point. That's why I installed the Awesome edition. Then I went ahead and installed Qtile, i3, Xmonad, DWM, herbsluft WM, and then pulled down all my configs from my GitLab page. And then boom, done. I don't have to worry about configuring those 5 window managers because I pulled my .files from my GitLab repo. I'm done. So It's basically the same Qtile I had on Manjaro. The only thing I have to do is make sure I install all the programs I had on Manjaro. That takes some time, especially all the AUR programs that I had installed. Those are going to take even longer because they actually are compiled, right? All right, back to the chat for a second. Yeah, Arco is extremely stable. Yeah, I've not had any problems with Arco on, like I said, the laptops when I've had them on my laptop, so why not? And Manjaro would have been fine. It's just that particular version of Manjaro I wanted to install is the i3 edition. It's the one I always install because I'm going to install i3 anyway as one of the window managers that I would put on it. And it's kind of minimal. It's not very bloated. But the i3 ISO hasn't been updated lately. And because this graphics card, this Radeon 7, is a very new card, it's a problem with the drivers on that live image. Wouldn't have been a problem if I had just installed mainline Arch. It would have saved me some time, actually. If I had mainline Arch on a USB stick, I should have just did the command line Arch install. Because you don't have to worry about graphics drivers doing a command line install because you're not in a graphical environment. You know, Xorg is not even part of the equation there. Yeah, how about Salient OS? I don't use a desktop environment, so it doesn't make any sense for me to install Salient. I'm sure Salient's great, though. It's just not for me. Because I'm not going to, as soon as I install it, I'm just going to tear off everything that he put on top of Arch anyway. So I needed to start with something like a minimal install of something. So one of the Arco builds with one of their tiling window managers, or one of the Manjaro builds with i3 or OpenBox, or the Architect installer in Manjaro, or a minimal install of Antergos, or just a mainline Arch install. Starting with a big desktop environment like Mate or GNOME or KDE doesn't make sense because I have to uninstall hundreds of programs off that desktop because I'm not going to use them. So yeah, I missed some of the chat. Sorry, guys. Eric Dubois is a beast. Absolutely. Arco is great. Absolutely. Joe Panico, how you doing, sir? Yeah, so DT, is your Team Red PC what you hoped for? I don't know. This is the first thing I've done on it, other than installing software all day and moving files over all day. So let's see. So you ordered a machine without an OS. Oh, yes. Yes, I did not ask for Windows, but you guys, somebody had mentioned I could have installed Windows on this. Actually, I could have. Even though I did not order a machine with Windows, I didn't pay the Windows tax. So I got like a $60 or $80 discount or whatever ordering a machine without an OS. But the NVMe drive in this machine, it did have like a Windows partition, like a Windows installer partition, a small like 400 megabyte thing in it. So when I first booted the machine, and I didn't even have a USB stick or anything in the machine, you know, it actually booted into a Windows environment. Cortana came up and wanted some information. She wanted my email address, phone number. She wanted a blood sample. And I was like, are you kidding me? I purposely did not buy Windows, but I'm still getting this Windows installer crap coming up. Basically, I could, you know, telling me I can install Windows. It would partition, you know, that NVMe drive. And like, no, I'm not installing Windows. As soon as Cortana came up, and the first thing she asked was for an email address, or, you know, some personal information, I shut down the machine, plugged in a USB stick, put Linux on it. Yeah, compile times on a Threadripper shouldn't be an issue. That's what we're hoping. Hey DT, nice to see you. Already built? Yep. I didn't build it myself. I bought it built. You should have gone with the Architect installer. Well, if I'd have known I was going to have some problems with the i3 ISO, I would have. In the end, I just went with what I had handy at the time. I don't mind Arco. I mean, I wanted to put an Arch base distro on it anyway. Arco's as good as any other. Yeah, Mike, Salient OS is amazing. Sorry, Arco. Salient OS probably is amazing. I should take a look at it on the channel at some point. I can't install it on my physical machine, though, because like I said, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use the desktop environment on it. So once I rip all the desktop environment and everything off of it, it's basically just Arch underneath. I might as well have just installed Arch. Let's see, the Linux kernel compiles in about 1 minute on my 1950X. Yeah, is that the big kernel? You need to change that setting for make package so it uses more than just one thread. That's correct. The AUR by default compiles with just one thread. I find mainline Arch best. I've installed Arch OpenBox. I followed your video. It runs great. Yeah, OpenBox is fantastic. Radeon 7 benchmarks. Yeah, we're not doing any benchmarks today. Like I said, I just got this computer up and running. I just got OBS installed. Obviously, when I first started streaming, I was having some issues with the audio. But don't worry, you'll get plenty more about this machine in the next few days. OpenBox will run like greased lightning. Yep. Bye-bye, Cortana. Did you get any of that crazy weather today? Yep. I got some pretty bad weather early today. Just make a video on the latest PC Linux OS. We'll upload after watching. Oh, good. Present Arms has a really great version of PC Linux OS with the Trinity desktop. You guys should definitely check that out. I'm happy to see you when you use Linux distro. Great men. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to see if it improves your ballistic overkill performance. I doubt it will, Joe. It can't make it any worse. Alright, so I know why all of you people are here, what you've been waiting for. And I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. Let's go ahead and HTOP. So there are the 24 threads in HTOP. And of course, we are streaming in 1080p. 60 frames a second. So this should, be kind of rough on a CPU. It's not really taxing the Threadripper. So it taxed the hell out of my FX 6300 though. And yeah, that is with several other things open other than HTOP and OBS. I also have Firefox running. I have 3 terminals up. Of course, I had Vim open too. Oh, by the way, how much RAM were we using? I have 32 gigs of RAM now. I'm only using 3 gigs, so not much RAM being used. All right. Yeah, I had snow yesterday for some reason in March. Wow. Yeah, it's been in like the 70s and 80s here lately, so I'm not going to see snow around here. Yeah, with AMD, you want the latest kernels and open source drivers for the best experience. Keep that in mind when benching. Yep. Matter of fact, normally, Hink makes a good point. And normally, I tell you guys, I run the LTS kernels. I always stick to the LTS kernels because why not? You don't need the latest and greatest kernel. Well, because I have kind of newish hardware. Something I normally, I run old hardware, refurbished machines. That's typically the kind of stuff I do. So, because I have that Radeon 7, I'm not on the LTS kernel. I'm on the latest and greatest kernel. Because these new kernels are going to have, the latest drivers for this card, which I'm going to need. If I was running the LTS 419 kernel, I'd be good. If I was running the previous LTS 414 kernel, it wouldn't be a good experience at all. Yeah, Present Arms, only 12 cores, yeah. Only 12. The 16 core, I might could have, it was a little bit more money, but I might could have shelled out a little more money for the 16 core. The 32 core, though, no. Was not happening. Yep. Yeah, 32 gigs of RAM. Yep. Yeah, I thought, why not? It'll make those VMs run a little better. Sometimes I like to play around in multiple VMs at a time too, so it's nice to give all of them, pretty healthy amount of RAM. Yeah, let's see. Lazy Geek Gamer, I see I'm not the only one using AMD system as well. Yep. And Big Pod had a kernel panic on Manjaro today. It happens. That's strange. Big Pod had a kernel panic today in Manjaro that caused him some issues, and I couldn't even get Manjaro to install on my new machine here today, so. But Manjaro is a great distro. I actually had no problems with Manjaro on my other machine at all for over a year. Let's see. NVENC is beautiful on NVIDIA computers. Yeah. You have to use the proprietary drivers really with NVIDIA anyway, so you might as well be using NVENC. Don't try to use the Nouveau drivers with NVIDIA. It's not a good experience. Dev Dungeon. On my Threadripper, I stream, run Ubuntu GNOME in a VM with 16 threads. Music, Streamlabs, OBS, PyCharm, Android Studio, Android Emulator. Yeah. Lazy Geek Gamer, you're using Ubuntu 18.10? Yeah, I need to check out the new Ubuntu 19.04 when it comes out here in a couple of weeks. Yeah, YouTube now supports 4K videos. I won't be recording anything in 4K. I don't have any 4K monitors, so 1920, 1080. We'll stick to that resolution. Really, 1080p 60. Really all you need for YouTube. Yeah, are you using the open source drivers? Yeah, I'm sticking with the open source drivers. At least for now. That's one of the benefits of the AMD cards is the open source drivers are really good. In some instances, they perform better than the proprietary drivers. In some cases, they don't. But they're pretty good. Where the NVIDIA open source drivers, like I said, you really can't use the NVIDIA open source drivers. Let's see. Why did you choose the Radeon 7? Because I wanted to try a AMD card, and the Radeon 7 was an interesting card because it had the 16 gigs of the high bandwidth memory on it. Should help with things like streaming, video rendering. If I want to crypto mine, it should be great for that as well. Actually, some of you guys have been asking for me to actually do like crypto mining stuff on the channel. I don't know anything about crypto mining, but maybe I should take a look at some of that stuff at some point. I find the technology fascinating. I wouldn't want to have a machine dedicated just to mining, though. Let's see. As far as the Radeon 7, also, why did I choose the Radeon 7? Why did I choose AMD over NVIDIA? That'd probably be a lot of folks' questions. I already have NVIDIA cards. I have the NVIDIA 1060. I've always used NVIDIA, so I needed to buy at least one AMD card at some point to check it out. It's kind of hard to have a YouTube channel, you know, and talk about Linux, and I've never owned an AMD card. You can blame that on me, Big Pod. What did you do this time, Rocco? Let's see. I missed a lot of chat. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Yeah, use that old machine as render server and AUR build server. No, I'm going to take some of the parts out of that old machine, but the machine is going to be working, and I'm going to give it to a family member that needs a computer. Because it's still a pretty nice machine. Not for what I do, but for your typical desktop user, it's going to be a great machine. I could have kept it and done something with it, but I got somebody that needs a machine, so I'm just going to take, some of the stuff I need out of it. I'm going to take that NVIDIA 1060 out of it. I'm going to take my IC dock with all the drives in it. Yeah, you had 744 updates on Trinity for the new build. Wow. Let's present arms. So that's Joe Panico. That's the only slight regret I have. My Ryzen 1600 systems, MBO, has a max of 266 megahertz. So your motherboard, I guess, you can only do 260 2666 megahertz, yeah. And you want to do 3200 megahertz. Yeah, Big Daddy. Salient is awesome. Yeah, Jessica, you're on Manjaro i3 as a first tiling window manager. You're loving it so much. Oh, very cool. A lot of people really love i3 when they check it out, as a first tiling window manager. Oddly enough, i3 is my least favorite tiling window manager that I've tried so far. And I've tried a lot of them. i3 is not bad. Let's see. Yeah, kind of the same reason as DT. I would just rip everything out and put your own crap on. Well, I know Big Pod loves open box. What he's been doing lately, yeah. How does one get inspiration for a good rice? An i3 one, in my case. I don't know. I can't help you there. I think you just need to hang out on Unix porn for a little while. Yeah. You should have gotten a Vega. Vega probably supports SRIOV. Yeah. I've always been an AMD fan, but NVIDIA graphics cards have performed better for me and lived longer. Huh. My last AMD card burned. Wow. It got a GTX 960 4GB. When you say burned, did it actually catch fire, like in the case? Radeon 7, how did you get your hands on that? Well, we discussed it earlier. It was actually tough. I ordered this computer from Ava Direct and had them build it for me. Gave them a list of parts. And the Asus Radeon 7 was what I had requested. And they couldn't find one. They called me back like a week later. They didn't have an Asus Radeon 7 card. They called Asus. It was going to be months maybe before Asus Radeon 7s would be available again. That's how backed up they were. But they were able to find somebody somewhere. I guess they were going to buy from another company. They found somebody willing to sell them 1 gigabyte Radeon 7. So that's how I ended up with the Radeon 7. But yeah, you're not going to find them right now. Yeah. Amazon has the Asus Radeon 7 in stock on April 9th. Yeah. Well, that's only 5 days away for those of you looking for one. There's probably not going to be that many, though. I mean, they're going to go quick. Yeah, put Red Core Linux for Team Red. I thought about it. We're talking about, something to put on this machine. I thought about maybe putting something like Red Core or Sabian or Calculate, a Gentoo base instead of an Arch base. I did run Calculate for a little while back in 2018, and it broke on me in a big way. Sabian is kind of interesting. The repos aren't quite as big as the Arch repos as far as what I can get as far as software, but they're pretty good. I don't like the package management in Sabian. It's slow. But I very nearly put Sabian on this machine today. I was like, you know what? I'm so used to the AUR. I'm so used to living in this Arch ecosystem. I'm just going to stick with it. Let's see. Looks like the chat jumped ahead here. Yeah, I want to switch to AMD so I can get better CPU and GPU performance, but other than CPU and GPU, Intel makes the best peripherals. Intel Wi-Fi is second to none. Okay. Yeah, DT, you say you don't know much about ricing, but all of your personal setups look amazing. What are you hiding? Yeah, but they're not your typical Unix porn kind of screenshots. Those screenshots are usually like, I have a lot of windows open, Vim and, things you actually use to do work on your desktop. They're not the kind of amazing shots you see over on the Unix porn subreddit. With the AA fire and the C matrix and your terminal music player with the visualizer going. I don't do screenshots like that. Now Peabody, damn, that's a lot of cores. Yeah. I probably could have compiled Gentoo rather quickly on this machine had I wanted to go mainline Gentoo. In the end, though, like I gave it some serious thought of, hopping to something not Arch related. I just couldn't do it, though. I'm comfortable. Very comfortable. I'm just going to stay where I'm at. DT, install something from the AUR. I could, but when you install something, it will cause the stream to buffer a little bit. See, checked out Redcore's website, and the first thing I see is a DT video on the front page. Yeah. It's been a while since I checked out Redcore, but I have talked to the main dev with Redcore a few times. He always comments every time I take a look at his distro on the channel. And he usually takes criticism pretty well as far as, hey, it'd be great if, you could fix this or tweak that. He's one of those devs that really loves that kind of feedback. He really wants to make his distro better. So, the Threadripper would be overkill for me. The 2700X was my speed for gaming. Would you benchmark GCC performance on the Threadripper? We may do some benchmarking at some point. Do you think a Ryzen 2200G or 2400G would make a good photo editing PC without a dedicated GPU? It would probably be okay for photo editing, yeah. Really, the dedicated GPU, when you get into video, that's really when you need it. So things like Kdenlive and DaVinci and Lightworks and things like that. Or if you're doing like animated stuff, if you work with Blender, you really need a high-end GPU. So, yeah, Big Pod. I wish I had the Threadripper. It would so quickly get a place in my server stack. Currently on the look for a new laptop with good battery life. Leaning towards the Dell XPS. Yeah, not seeing much of Ryzen-based laptops. No, you're right about that. It's not a lot of Ryzen laptops out there. It's all Intel. Or the old AMD APUs. Yeah, Mr. GFY says, hey DT and folks, I'm late. Yes, you are. Yeah, would you push 4K videos now that you have a beefy system? I have a machine that could record in 4K. I don't have a 4K monitor, though. So, I have 3 monitors, but they're not 4K monitors. So, I'm not really interested in getting a 4K monitor either. I kind of like having 3 24-inch monitors, 1920 by 1080 resolution. Yeah, so, will all this power, when will we have a Super Tux Kart gameplay? Well, you know what? I thought about it. I don't know. I haven't even installed Steam or anything on this machine. I've installed just what I could to get this stream going tonight, so I still have a lot of work to get everything straight on this computer. But if I had the time to have installed Steam tonight, I thought about just telling all you guys to meet me somewhere on Steam for a game. But that would take a while to install, because I'd have to install Steam and then download all my games. That might take a couple of hours, so I don't want to wait that kind of time. Yeah, Big Pod, choosing an Arco B right now to build ISO. Just don't know what to choose for a base. Well, I know you really like OpenBox. I bet they have OpenBox editions. I don't know if Arco B has one. Maybe Arco D, the one you do at the command line with the shell scripts. I think you actually choose your own window managers or desktops on that one. Yeah, Loopester. Hey guys, congrats DT. Thank you. Good to see you. Despondent. Yay, Team Red is awesome. Yeah, yeah, Telsaurus. Sometimes I wish I spent more than $300 for rigs. I know that's typically what I do. I do not buy good equipment. I've told you guys, in the year and a half I've been doing this YouTube channel, as far as hardware, computer hardware, I do not buy state-of-the-art equipment ever until now. It's always budget builds, The laptops behind me, refurbished, used, bought them on eBay, didn't even have drives in them. That's same thing with the desktops I've had over the years. I've never bought anything that can be considered like a high-end machine. But I'm tired of taking an hour and a half to render a 30-minute video. I'm tired of it taking an hour and 15 minutes for me to compile the Linux kernel. Those things get old after a while. So, yeah, the Threadripper won't help in ballistic overkill. You're right, Rocco. It won't help it. Well, you know what? I'm probably going to get some pretty good frame rates in ballistic overkill, but you're as far as it won't help my playing, yes, you're right. Is DevOne safe right now? I'm assuming that was an April Fool's joke. When the DevOne site, basically they put up that they had been hacked. It happened on April 1st. I'm assuming it was an April Fool's joke. Everything seems right with the DevOne website now, so. Yeah, so Ben Fitzpatrick, I may run i3 on Arch. Yeah, you might like i3, Ben. Yeah, DT, I won't choose an open box as Arco B. It's the BYOI approach. Because it would be a waste of good theming. We'll probably choose something like Mate or Budgie. And Steven, I use a 43-inch TV, 4K. Budget builds are where it's at typically. Yeah, I agree. If I didn't do videos, if I didn't do these videos, there would be no sense in spending that kind of money. Or if I was a hardcore gamer, I guess it would make sense. All right. Let's see. Give me just a second here, guys. All right. And for those of you just arriving late to the stream, I'm not going to stream too much longer. This was mainly just a test stream to test out this new PC here. So obviously, as you can tell, an H-top. It's a Threadripper. So it's a 12-core, 24-thread Threadripper. Let me close out H-top there. Glorious H-top. I'm going to have H-top just on one monitor all the time. I just will stare at H-top all day. Okay, so those of you that were just getting here, so this was the new machine that was delivered today. This gigantic box that was delivered today that was as big as a human being, basically. Much bigger than my old machine. So some accessories that were shipped in the box as far as some extra parts that didn't go into the build. Of course, the machine itself without the glass. Motherboard was the ASRock X399 Phantom Gaming. The 1920X was the Threadripper, the 12-core 24-thread Threadripper. Radeon 7 is the graphics card. That's a Gigabyte Radeon 7. We have the NZXT 280mm radiator here, the liquid cooling for the CPU. 32 gigs of RAM. We have a 1 terabyte NVMe Intel 660p NVMe. Yeah, that cord management needs more drives. Don't worry, we're going to take care of that. I've got the drives. I just haven't put them in the machine. I have a 6-bay IC dock that has not been placed in here yet. I mentioned too, that is one of the reasons why I chose this particular case from Ava Direct, is because it actually has drive bays, where most cases these days do not come with like optical drive bays anymore because nobody uses them. There's the back of the machine. Was showing you some of the ports. Kind of zoomed in there. Anyway. Alright guys, well I'm just going to stream for a couple of more minutes and I better jump off. I've still got a lot of work to do on this machine. I've got to install a lot more software still. I also didn't import all my data over. Most of it, the stuff that was really important, but I still had 100 gigabytes of music that I need to put on this machine. So yeah, Rocco, you're off to bed. Good night, Rocco. I'll see you. Alright. Alright, let me catch up on the chat and then I better get back to what I was doing. Might get myself an old machine with like a old CPU to add to my server stack. Yeah? Has anyone heard of the Plop bootloader? Plop bootloader. Is that like some kind of toilet humor? Plop? I don't know. Everybody gets a core. Yeah? When you got a lot of cores, you can just give everybody a core. You can open up a dozen VMs and give everybody 2 cores. Yeah, what DM are you using now? I'm assuming Window Manager maybe is what you're asking. That was Qtile. But I'm going to be in Herbst Luft. That's what I've been living in the last 2 weeks. And it's installed on the machine. I just didn't do this video in Herbst Luft because I don't know how well it would have worked or not. I still have all my tiling window managers installed on this new, it's Arco Linux. I installed Arco Linux B with the awesome window manager, and then I installed Qtile, i3, Xmonad, DWM, and Herbst Luft also on this. I logged into Xmonad. I know it works. I logged into Qtile to do this video. I know they work. The other window managers I haven't really played in yet. Like I said, once I got to the point where everything was kind of installed, I had OBS installed and everything plugged in, I was like, you know what, I should do a quick stream just to see how streaming goes. Obviously everything works, so we're good. Yeah, Despondent DT, do you still use i3? I don't log into i3 very often. i3 is not one of my favorite window managers, probably one of my least favorite. Log into it every now and then just because I have it on the system. Sometimes I log into it just to familiarize myself with how i3 works. It works a little differently than things like Qtile and DWM. Is that SXIV for image viewing? Yes, that was SXIV. What a horrible name. 6.4 is what I'm going to call it. Yeah, that was 6.4 for image viewing. Yes, it is. Is the 1 gig going to be enough to do your videos? The Radeon 7 16 gig is what I was able to test. Is the 1 gig going to be 1 gig? I'm not sure what you're asking there. I don't have anything that's 1 gig unless I may have misspoke. I have 32 gigs of RAM, the 16 gig graphics memory on the Radeon 7. I have a 1 terabyte NVMe. I might have said 1 gig. If I did, that was my mistake. Yes, DT, do you do any coding? If so, what IDE do you prefer? I am not a developer or a programmer by trade. I'm just an amateur. I can do some simple bash scripting, Python, do some amateurish web development, have for many years. IDE, Vim is what I'm using these days. I just do everything in Vim. Before Vim, 10 years ago, before I got into Linux, I used to do everything on Notepad. That was my IDE. Mr. GFY, no, Plop is real. Look it up. I'm not about to Google Plop, Mr. GFY. You're not getting me like that. I'm not about to Google the Plop loader. Bad Wolf DT, wait, there's a 1 gig? 1 gig? I'm not exactly, what are you asking? What is 1 gig? I know Plop, I had to use it, says Bubba. Yeah, it was like 7 years ago. DT, I thought it was 16, just 16 gigs. I am lost, Bad Wolf. I said 1 gig on the Radeon. Oh yeah, it's 16 gigs, yeah. Yeah, the Radeons, all the Radeon 7s are 16 gigs of the HB2 memory. Yeah. I probably misspoke. But you guys knew what I was talking about. You know there wasn't just 1 gig of memory on that thing. Yeah, Plop allows you to boot from a USB even if your company does not normally allow it. Okay. That could get you in trouble, though. If your company does not allow it, you got to be careful with that kind of thing. Yeah, VirtualBox needs Plop to boot from a USB. Okay. Spatry made a video about Plop. Yeah, I'll check that out on YouTube later. I was so confused when you said that. And, I guess I misspoke. Sorry, Bad Wolf. Not the first time it's happened. Won't be the last. DT, you still use Arch Linux? I am using Arco, an Arch-based Linux distribution. Today. Just installed it. Just a few hours ago. DT, we're not trolling you. We swear. It's alright. Troll away. I'm used to it. I actually haven't used Arch Linux on my main production machine to do videos or whatever on this YouTube channel in the last year and a half, other than I lived in it about 2 weeks at one point, early 2018. And that was a period where I was hopping distros a lot. For some reason. I was hopping distros like every 2 weeks. Where this year, it's a little different. We started 2019, and instead of distro hopping every couple of weeks, I window manager hop every couple of weeks. So next year, who knows? We may be terminal emulator hopping or a init system hopping. That's what I should have done. I should have installed Void Linux with the run it init system. Tried that out on this rig. That could have been interesting. Void Linux actually does interest me as a project. I understand why Void Linux exists. It's one of those distros. It has a purpose. Yeah, DT, in your Arch install, do you have a separate home and root partition? Or do you just put everything in root? Well, I'm not on Arch today. I'm on Arco. And I did not do a separate home partition. I normally don't do a separate home partition. Separate home partition works if you plan on staying on the same distro for a while, like you do a separate home partition in Ubuntu, and then you want to reinstall Ubuntu 18.10, you want to go to 1904, and you have that home partition. Everything should just be fine when you go to Ubuntu 1904, but if, say you go from Ubuntu 18.10 to Fedora 30, having that home partition things may or may not work out for you. Some of that stuff in that home partition that was there on Ubuntu may not work in Fedora. Some of the config files, some of your RC files, things like the bash RC, things like that. So I don't bother with the home partition. Matter of fact, on this rig, I'm trying to think, did I create a swap? I don't think I did. And sometimes I on my last machine, I had 16 gigs of RAM on my previous machine. And, I distro hopped a little bit on that machine. I tried a lot of distros on it over the years. And some of them, I create swap partitions, or I let the automatic installer do the partitioning, and usually they create a swap. But if I manual partition, a lot of times I don't even bother with the swap. I didn't on the last machine, and I didn't on this machine. 32 gigs of RAM. Does it really need a swap? Probably not. Yeah, Present Arms, you should try my OS, DT. Actually, when I put my IC dock with all the extra drives in this machine, your distro is on one of those drives, Alistair. Yeah, Tony, catch you later, DT. Off to bed. Yeah, so am I. Love the new rig. Enjoy setting it up fully. Yeah, should be fun. I probably won't do anything on the channel tomorrow. I might Saturday or Sunday. I don't know. I try to release something over the weekend once I kind of get things set up. Right now, nothing's really set up. I just had it set up enough to where I could stream. So, and I just wanted to see how it streamed. So, now that you have the power to run BSD, yeah. Now that I can compile stuff, yeah, compiling on FreeBSD would be great. Yeah, but can he run Crysis? Thank you for the super chat, Eli. Appreciate that. Yeah, do you have any Hackintoshing experience? No, Hackintoshing, that doesn't interest me at all. I don't want to run the Mac OS. I don't like that desktop. There's really no programs that run on the Mac OS that I just wish I had on Linux. So, yeah, some apps and games actually look for the swap partition. Yeah, I've never had any issues though. Like I said, on my previous machine, sometimes I did create a swap partition, sometimes I didn't. And I always had Steam installed. You know, I've done plenty of game streams over the last year and a half. Never had any problems, even on that machine, which wasn't anywhere near this machine. So, yeah, I have a swap file so I can hibernate. Yes, it's important if you want to hibernate. On my laptops, I always have swap partitions. So, yeah, I've heard that the home partition is good if the system, especially on Arch, breaks. Yeah, if you're going to reinstall Arch, yeah, because now you don't even have to touch home. Home is good. You reinstall all your personal documents and that home partition are already there, you're good to go. Yeah, it makes sense in that situation. If you hop a lot to a lot of different distros, it makes a little less sense. It still works. It's just some things will be broken. You'll have to fix some stuff. Yeah, Loopester. Stream's great. Thank you. Stacy. Hey, Derek. Hi, Stacy. We were just about to jump off, but I'm glad you could join us. We were discussing a new computer I'd ordered and got delivered today. So that was the topic of today, but you can catch it on the replay here. Yeah, run OpenBSD or Cubes for ultimate security. Cubes might be interesting to play with. OpenBSD, I doubt I could do what I do on this YouTube channel running any of the BSDs. So, Manjaro is a good start to Arch Linux. Yeah, absolutely. Manjaro is great. Especially now with Proton and Windows games, yeah. There's no place like /home. Okay. I was thinking about getting an Intel NUC. Any suggestions? I've never owned a NUC myself. But what do you want to go with a i5 7th gen to replace your Asus laptop that's running a 5th gen i5? Yeah. Yeah, I can't help you with the NUC. I've never owned one. I will have home partition for hobbing, so most configs work, yeah. For me, like my big directories in my home directory, like the one that I have to worry about the most, I have like a music directory that has 120 gigs of music in it. That's a lot of music. I'm not really worried about all the other documents in my home directory, but that particular music directory, now I could create a separate partition for that. And I don't have to worry about anything breaking with having that partition because there's no config files or anything. You know, it's just MP3s and flags, you know. Yeah, DT, I have asked you a lot of questions today. Here's one more. How's your day going? It's been a long day. I'm tired. But it was fun. Yeah, Rob, congrats on the new machine, DT. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Benjamin, I have given plenty of people Manjaro, average users, and have had no issues so far. Knocks on wood. Yeah, Manjaro, it's always been solid for me until today. If you weren't here early in the stream, I actually was going to install Manjaro on my new machine that I just got, and I couldn't get it to even boot up properly. So, off a ISO, live USB stick. DT, you should try Yay as a package manager for Arch. I used Yay on Manjaro. That was my AUR helper on Manjaro. It's also was already installed here on Arco. Arco Linux, they use Yay for their AUR helper. So no need to try it. I'm already using it. Yeah, Derek, do you back up your music to the cloud? 120 gigs. Let me restate that. 120 gigabytes of music. I have it on a external SSD somewhere. It's actually plugged in to the machine right now. I do have a Dropbox account that I'm going to probably not use anymore. Dropbox has always been great, but really they don't seem like they want to support Linux anymore. They only want to support unencrypted Extend 4 file systems now. So I signed up for MegaSync a few months ago, and I've been using Mega. It's great. So I have that account, and I store stuff there. I also recently, the last week or two, I created my own Nextcloud. I have a web server with a web host that I installed Nextcloud on. And I've got some stuff on Nextcloud. Yeah, Jennifer, congrats on the new PC, Derek. Which Threadripper did you get? The 12-core, 24-thread 1920X. And Alistair, you have a separate home, present, music partition. Yeah, 512 gigs. Wow, that is crazy. I thought I had a lot of music. I've got 120 gigabytes of music, classical music, that I've collected over some time, and I don't want to lose it. When I was really doing a lot with my music, especially if I had a gig or something, you know, I was doing something with some orchestra and they were playing some piece and something I wasn't familiar with, chances are I've got it in that folder. It's organized, you know, by composer, and so I just go to the folder that has that composer, and I've got every piece of music that guy's ever written, you know, in that folder. So, yeah, Big Pod, your music collection is 5 gigs. That's still a lot of music. Yeah, 43 gigs, copied 6 times among 5 drives. 3 of them disks, 2 of them SSDs. And Bad Wolf, you have approximately 700 gigs of music. Wow. DT, play us out with one of your tunes before you leave. Yeah, well, I do have the external SSD plugged in with some of my music. It's not on the NVMe drive yet, but since I have the external SSD, I could. Yeah, my music folder is almost 6 gigs. All right. Let's see. Yeah, you should start your own music streaming service. Yeah, FLAC takes up tons of space. Yeah, it does depend on how you save everything. So most of my music in that 120 gigs is actually MP3. Not much of it is FLAC. There is some FLAC in there. DT, do you like Shostakovich? Yes, one of my favorites. I love Shostakovich. Like Shostakovich 5. Good trombone parts in that. DT, do you have a movie collection? And if so, what do you do for a movie center? A media center? I do not, Chris. I don't save movies, mainly because I just don't have storage. Again, cheap. I buy cheap equipment. I've never had like mass storage capabilities where I could do something like I'm going to save, you know, a bunch of movies or something. All right, let's see what I got here. Let's see what Eric Dubois has installed here. Got 2 file managers on here. Well, 3. I installed VIM, the file manager I plan on using. There's PC Man FM, I think is what this was, and Thunar is also on here, the XFCE file manager. Let's see. So this was some of the stuff I had backed up. Yeah, so if I go to classical music, for example, you guys want some Bach? Let's view detailed list. Well, how about some of the Bach cantatas? You know, you got there's one collection, and there's another collection, and there's another collection, and that was just that right there. So, oh, Dead Beef is on here for a media player. I didn't install that. I guess Eric had that installed already. Let's see. One thing I will say is we definitely are not listening to music right now. All right. Okay. Pulse audio volume control. See, these are the little things you have to do. You got to get pulse audio straightened out. SSH into my machine and swipe all that classical music. Yeah. Mozart, Beethoven, two of my favorites. Yeah, love Beethoven. Like some Mozart. Yeah. Sati, and the files are thoroughly managed. Yes, they are. Yeah, do I have Shostakovich 5 in there? Yes, obviously I can't play any of that stuff. Some of that stuff may get tripped up in the YouTube algorithms. Do I have any Wagner? Of course. As a trombone player, Wagner's a big one. The Ride of the Valkyries. Great trombone parts. Ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, bum. Yeah, the Olive Video Editor really uses your graphics card like OBS. Try it. I should, actually. People have been telling me I need to try Olive. Alright, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Before I go, I need to thank those guys. Handsome, Carlos, Chris, Douglas, Dylan, Leo, Rob, Robert, and Tony. They are the producers of the show, my highest tiered patrons. Also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, all those names you see on the screen. Alright, guys. Peace.